show. So come on in and take a seat. Warrior class, we got the keys. Doom, 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 doom. To get you where you need to be, just study our show. And you're gonna grow like crazy. Watching you will see. Doom, 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 doom. Warrior class, we got the keys. Just watch our show. 'Cause it's for you and your babies.
Welcome to Warrior Class.
Where the teachers will
and you will too if you pass. All right. This is this is Ominique said hello.
Hey.
This is the spirituality, religion, and African tradition episode.
I have posts.
It was inspired by a question that was asked last week.
I believe.
Yeah, I believe so. What was the difference between spirituality and religion? And we're going to get into that and what's the synthesis of spirituality and religion.
Ready?
Which is African traditions. And we will get to that in just a minute. All right, but first, Ominiki is going to bless us with the news.
Oh, wow. I'm blessing you with the news now. That's lovely. So I watched a video on Instagram recently. I don't have my phone, I'm not prepared. But I do want everyone to just be more vigilant when it comes to using things that have fragrance in them. I know a lot of people like to use cologne. You know, we should really be thinking about, because we know how to think, we should be thinking about, where is that coming from? Why is there a pre-cooked smell to just spray on ourselves? Like, what is that? You know, think critically about it. Like we think about so many other things. I think if people were really focusing on critical thinking about that a lot of us wouldn't be having the issue in the first place. But fragrances, synthetic fragrances cause a lot of hormone disruption, which can lead to infertility and other issues, cancer, all kinds of different issues that we can have health-wise. So just be careful and research any kind of fragrance that may be in the things that any household products that you use. Air fresheners are not really necessary. You know, there's other things that you can use that are more natural. Even lighting a match, you know, in certain situations would be a lot better than spraying fragrance, you know, so that it gets in places all over. So think about that. Other thing that I wanted to talk about was just current events from this week that I have been noticing. Baba, I need just a second though. I'll be right back.
Oh, all right.
Sorry.
All right. While Ominiki is taking a break to do whatever she's doing, I'd like to greet you all who's out there. Eugene Mason, Jadarian, the lurkers out there, and we've got several. Greetings to you all. Welcome to you all. This should be a fun and interesting episode. So we're going to get into it. Peace. I manifesto. Yeah, Darian, Eugene Mason. And like I said, several lurkers out there. So
Greetings. Sorry about that, y'all. We got a lot going on over here.
Oh, it's
as
cool.
I'm sure we all do. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was this week. I've been seeing a lot of postings and videos in particular about it's almost like they're trying to give us the feeling that the tide is turning. We have to be very cautious of political theater. So, for a while, they're kind of like banging on you, letting you to tell you, oh, things are hopeless and, there's nothing you can do to escape, whatever's going on. Of course, there's the big excitement with the Epstein files and people paying so much attention to that. And what we've seen recently this week is a lot of videos of people being made to testify in Congress and the Congress people being all over them and making them look like fools. And, there being actual, overt white supremacists that are being nominated for government, major government positions that are being outed, by Congress members. And I feel like what they're trying to do, like I said, is to put out this vibe, like the tide is turning, like there's hope, like all of that. And I think that emotionally, you can kind of get vested in that, and kind of feel like, oh, well, maybe, things are getting better. And I'm not saying that they're not. But I'm saying that we have to make sure that we remember what is really going on, who we really are, and who they really are. These are people who, through Trayvon Martin, through Tamir Rice, through, we can go back to Emmett Till and back further than that. Couldn't be bothered to pay attention or make the connection that of what was happening to us, who all of a sudden in the last year or a couple of years are like, oh my goodness, they're doing bad things to Black people, but their whole lives they're growing up in the same world as us, seeing these things happen and not really having very much to say about it. But now all of a sudden they're all over these racists. They're trying to make themselves look good, basically. And my point is that even if a lot of them don't know what's really at stake, which I don't believe that they don't, do you really think that when they find out that they're going to choose you over their family, choose some sort of moral code, which they've never had, and doing something right for us over their actual survival of their family and their friends and the people who look like them, like that's not going to happen. So we have to not allow ourselves to get emotionally invested in the things that we're seeing, because they're master manipulators of emotion. We have to make sure that we remember who we are and remember who they are. That's my need.
Good. All right. So we're going to get into the episode then. So throughout human history, people have sought meaning beyond the material world. This search has taken many forms, but two of the most common are religion and spirituality. Although these terms are often used interchangeably, they describe distinct approaches to understanding the divine, the self, and the universe. What is spirituality? The word spirituality comes from Latin spiritualis, meaning breath, air, or of the spirit. At its core, spirituality refers to a personal, experiential connection with the divine. Spirituality emphasizes inner experience rather than external authority, direct awareness of meaning, purpose, or transcendence, discovering and embodying one's deeper or higher nature. Rather than asking, what should I believe, spirituality often asks, what can I experience, feel, or realize for myself? Spirituality is therefore inward focused, experiential, and flexible.
I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm having a hard time. Okay, I got it. What is religion? The word religion comes from the Latin religionum, meaning reverence, obligation, or respect for what is sacred. Religion refers to connection with the divine through a sacred tradition. Religion typically involves sacred texts and doctrines, moral laws and ethical codes, rituals, ceremonies, and institutions, community worship, and accountability. Religion answers such questions as who is God? What is right and wrong? How should humans live? Where spirituality emphasizes personal discovery, religion emphasizes shared belief and collective practice.
In much of Western society, religion has declined sharply since the Enlightenment and the World Wars. God has increasingly been viewed as outdated, authoritarian, or even irrational. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche famously declared, God is dead, capturing the growing disillusionment with traditional religious authority. At the same time, spirituality is often dismissed as woo-woo, unscientific, emotionally indulgent, or pseudoscientific. As science became the dominant way of understanding reality, anything metaphysical or subjective came under suspicion. Yet, despite this skepticism, humans continue to feel an innate longing for transcendence, whether expressed through religion, spirituality, ideology, consumerism, or devotion to science itself.
Key differences between spirituality and religion. 1, personal versus community oriented. Spirituality focuses on individual experience. Religion emphasizes communal worship and shared identity. 2, wisdom versus knowledge. Spirituality seeks lived wisdom. Religion emphasizes learned doctrine. Wisdom shapes how one lives. Knowledge shapes what one believes. 3, love and freedom versus obedience and salvation. Spirituality prioritizes inner freedom and love. Religion prioritizes obedience and moral order. Too little structure risks shallowness. Too much structure risks repression. 4, feeling-based versus thought-based. Spirituality follows intuition and inner guidance. Religion follows rules and teachings. Feelings inspire authenticity. Rules provide stability. 5, internal versus external divinity. Spirituality finds the divine within. Religion locates the divine beyond or above the self. Inner focus risks ego inflation. Outer focus risks alienation. 6, present oriented versus future oriented. Future oriented. Spirituality finds meaning in the present moment. Religion often emphasizes future salvation. Presence brings liberation. Future hope brings endurance. 7. Oneness versus duality. Spirituality emphasizes unity and interconnectedness. Religion often emphasizes moral duties, such as such as good and evil. Oneness fosters compassion. Duality fosters accountability. 8. Formal versus informal. Spirituality is flexible and self-directed. Religion is structured and ritualized. Freedom encourages exploration. Structure encourages commitment. 9. Joy versus self-indulgence. Joy versus self-sacrifice. Spirituality highlights joy and compassion. Religion emphasizes service and devotion. Joy without responsibility can become selfish. Sacrifice without balance becomes harmful. 10. Low versus high accountability. Spirituality has little external oversight. Religion provides authority and correction. Freedom risks immaturity. Accountability risks fear and conformity. 11. Experiential versus theoretical. Spirituality prioritizes direct experience. Religion prioritizes belief and understanding. Experience transforms. Theory stabilizes.
The third way, African traditions. Rather than choosing spirituality or religion, some propose a third path, African traditions. African traditions are the direct experience of the divine within a structured tradition. African traditions unite the form of religion and the experience of spirituality. Religion provides the container, spirituality provides the content. In conclusion, spirituality and religion are not enemies. They are complementary responses to humanity's deepest questions. When spirituality lacks structure, it becomes shallow. When religion lacks experience, it becomes lifeless. Together, they can form a balanced, grounded, and transformative path. Ultimately, the question is not which path is superior, but which path leads to greater compassion, wisdom, and responsibility, both inwardly and outwardly. So that is our information on spirituality, religion, and African traditions. As most of you all know, I'm an African traditionalist. I'm a priest of Obatala and Ifa. My children, my wife, we live our lives according to the laws of Ifa and Obatala and other Orisha, because I got my family members that are dealing with other Orisha too. My wife is Obatala priest, Oshun priest, and Ifa priest. So we deal with multiple Orisha. Orisha is, okay, so if you've got Olodumare, which is God, the supreme being, if he's the hand, the Orisha are fingers on the hand. Okay. So it's 400 plus one Orisha. And I'll tell you what that plus one means. Um, that means it's you got 400 Orisha, and the +1 means it's always increasing. It could be always increasing. So Eugene Mason could end up being in Orisha one day, you know. So that is how the Orisha works. When we say 400, and some people say, it's 401 Orisha. It's 400 plus 1 Orisha, not 401. Well, you can say, because and plus are similar, but it's talking about it could increase. So now I've studied other traditions as well. Muwada Garai wrote Ma'at, yes. So Ma'at is, and Omanika can tell you more about Ma'at. It is the study of the laws of the Egyptian people. And she can tell you how many it is and stuff like that. And that is where, to be honest, Christians stole that and created the laws, the 10 Commandments. But there's more than 10 laws of Ma'at. I don't know where Omaniki went, but hopefully she'll be back soon, and then she can break down Ma'at to you all. And there she is. Okay.
I heard you talking about breaking down Ma'at, but I didn't hear what you said before that.
I said that you can break down Ma'at better than I can.
All right. So Ma'at is a Kemetic goddess. He has 42 laws, which I think in the negative confession, it's been a while, but they call it the Book of the Dead, but it's really like called the Book of Negative Confessions. The 42 laws of Ma'at are reflected in like the 10 Commandments. The first one is I have not killed. I believe that's the first one. It's like I said, it's been a while, but a lot of them are very reflected, in the 10 Commandments, or 10 of them are reflected in the 10 Commandments. And basically, these are things that we are supposed to be able to confess once we have transitioned, that we have not committed, acts that we have not committed. Once you cross over, there's a ceremony where they weigh your heart to see if it's lighter than a feather, and then if it is, and that actually is not just in my, there are other traditions that have that as well. The first time I heard it was on Sesame Street. There was some kind of I think it was in Japan, or they were in China or something like that, and there was a very similar ritual that happened in their spiritual system.
I did it.
You had to weigh and see if the heart was light as a feather, and then if it is, you're able to cross over into whatever the good place is. But I guess is that what you wanted me to go over, or was there something you were thinking about?
No, that was it.
But she's the goddess of balance, basically. And that's my.
Now in Kemetic yoga, don't you all have the pose for Mayat?
Yes, we do. We do. I will not demonstrate it, but yes, we do. I mean, there's poses for a lot of things that are imagery that's traditionally Kemetic imagery. But yeah, Ma'at is one of the probably one of the most challenging poses for a lot of people because it's a lot of stretching in the ankles and the certain parts of the legs that don't really get stretched out a lot if you're not into stretching. So, but I think a lot of the thing about Kemetic yoga is the feeling of the alignment with that energy and that iconography. Because there's like I said, there's a lot of different poses that are reflective of I guess Kemetic. I don't want to call it mythology. I guess cosmology. The all of those storylines.
Okay, cool.
Excuse me.
Any questions for us?
Greetings to everyone in the chat. I know I haven't been here to.
Now I know many of us are either atheists or agnostics, right? Agnostic meaning you have doubt, particularly in the Abrahamic religion.
Yeah,
Atheist meaning you don't subscribe to anything that's spiritual or religious, but atheists have a religion too. It's called science. You will hear atheists,
the white man science.
yes, yeah, always. It's never African science.
No.
It's never African science. It's always the white man's science.
Right.
Yeah. Now, on that, and I've told several atheists this. You know how they talk about it's 246 patterns of light. Well, that comes from the Odu. It's 246 Odu. And the Odu are patterns of life. When you talk about a binary system, the system of zeros and ones, the binary system in Ifa, which is much older than the binary system in science, comes from the divination system, which is a binary system of ones and twos. Okay. So African science has long, which you don't separate African science from spirituality. African science has long understood the universe and how binary systems work and all of that good stuff. You see, Muwada Garai, I followed Yusra Hotep for a short period. He teaches Kemetic yoga. Yeah. Now, Ominiki is a Basu, which is like a master of Kemetic yoga. But I don't think she's under Yusra Hotep. Who are you under?
I'm sorry, y'all. I got rich people problems. I'm trying to finish my French toast sandwich before it gets cold. Excuse me. I am drawing a blank. But no, so that brother, he basically learned. I don't know if I should really even talk about this, but he learned Kemetic yoga. Kemetic yoga is very old. The brother and the sister, the married couple who pioneered it, are actually still living. And he was one of their students.
Who? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So he basically trademarked the name Kemetic yoga.
Wow.
So technically, I practice Egyptian yoga, even though we still call it Kemetic yoga. But legally, we're not supposed to use that name because he made it his instead of, well, I'm not even going to comment on that. You think, know what you know when you hear me say that he did that. So the teacher who I learned from was another student of the couple who pioneered Kemetic yoga. And his name is I just had his name in my head. I'm so sorry. This is terrible. I don't want to blame it on something, but I do have something to blame it on, but I'm not gonna say it. Give me just a second. Oh, Netter Ankh. I'm sorry, I didn't have to look.
Yeah.
Yes. So Netter Ankh has taught so many of us. He goes to Jamaica, he goes to England, he goes all around to different places and has certified so many different people in Kemetic, Egyptian yoga. And I mean, you find out that people are basus all the time. I actually just found out someone who I've known for a while is a basu, and I never knew. But there are just small classes that he teaches. We learned, I think it was about I want to say 6 months. We took classes. Obviously you have to learn all the poses, do yoga every day. There's a certain diet that you have to follow. And then, you have to start to teach, learn how to teach, learn to have certain demeanor, which I'm sure is probably part of, other yoga certifications as well. The thing about Kemetic, actually, I'm not sure about if that's true about Kemetic yoga, but with the yoga that I learned, we're not officially part of the yoga certification organization, whatever that, governing body is. You know how when the Urugu comes into things, all of a sudden you gotta have a license, and they gotta tell you, okay, yeah, you know how to do that. So they asked, originally they asked the couple who pioneered Kemetic yoga if they wanted to be a part of the association, and they declined. So even though they're older and the rituals that we learn are older than a lot of, or at least they predate a lot of the people who are certified and the organization itself that certifies people, we're not really technically a part of, what they consider to be certified yoga teachers. But, we don't care about that. And I just wanted to thank Jadarian. He said the book of Coming Forth by Day, and that is right. Thank you very much. I should have been looking at the chat. I should have
Now, coming forth by day is what?
That is the book of the name of the book of the dead that I couldn't think of.
Oh.
It's really called I think really that the book of the dead is the thing that the Urugu uses, but it's actually the book of Coming Forth by Day.
Oh, okay.
That's where the 42 laws of Ma'at are.
Okay.
Cool. That's right, Eugene Mason. I got rich people problems.
So any questions out there? We've only been going for 35 minutes. So now next week, we're going to do the actual birthday episode. So all the Pisces out there, Get with us because we're going to break down the Pisces profile for everybody. And that next week is the 21st. That is the greatest day ever of all the years. And that's the day that I turned 58. So we're going to break down the Pisces energy and all of that, and going to have some fun, So
that should be interesting.
As an African traditionalist, I'm often asked, so what do you think of astrology? Astrology has 12 houses, so it is very lacking, but it is very good too. I know some people who do astrology who can break down stuff, but you came at your sun rising, your moon declining, and all kinds of stuff, right? They can really break it down, but I've always said if you got those same people, NE5, which uses 256 houses, and they still have that energy to break things down and explain them like they do, they'd be some powerful priests. How do we follow Sister Ominiki? You can go to Facebook and follow her name, Shanita Wade, on there on Facebook, or you can follow all of us at Warrior Class BPM on Instagram. Y'all answered the questions I had.
I gotta remember what my Instagram name is too. Because if you, I don't think my.
It's.
I don't think
it's sure.
Zuri Soko. That's my.
Yeah.
That was my business name. I don't really have. I haven't been on. I guess I've been on Instagram, but I haven't really been using it much. So I don't have a lot of posts. Even the posts on my personal page on Facebook, some of them are kind of silly. Because I like to have a sense of humor about things. But sure, if you want to follow me, great. I do have some news, a few more pieces of news, so we can do that.
Go ahead.
Let's see here. I talked about the fragrances. There's been a lot in the news about pedophiles, a whole lot. So I'm going to read this short story about it. A former city councilman in Aberdeen, Washington, Riley Tyrell Carter, rose to local attention in part because a photo showed him wearing a red hat with the slogan, "Make pedophiles afraid again," a twist on the well-known political slogan that was meant to signal tough opposition to child predators. However, that image took on a grimly ironic tone after Carter was arrested in July 2024 on suspicion of first-degree rape of a child and other related abuse charges involving a minor relative, leading to his removal from office in a high-profile criminal trial. During the Grays Harbor County Superior Court trial, a jury found Carter guilty on all 8 felony counts, including multiple instances of child rape, incest, and molestation, with evidence showing ongoing abuse of a young family member. The conviction came after witnesses and family disclosures prompted a police investigation, and community reaction was one of shock given the contrast between Carter's earlier public persona and the criminal charges against him. In July 2025, the court sentenced Carter to 46.5 years in prison, ensuring he will spend decades behind bars for his crimes. The lengthy sentence was handed down after the jury's verdict and reflects the particularly serious nature of the offenses and the impact on the victim, even as the "Make Pedophiles Afraid Again" imagery circulated online as an example of bitter irony in this case. So I just wanted to share that again. The person's name is Riley Tyrell Carter. So, you know, just another, like I said, we see a lot of things in the news, and they got on a hat that says one thing, and they live in a life that is completely opposite of that. So please don't be fooled by these people.
Now, I want to address King Hercules said, I think that we have to keep in mind that just because our ancestors anthropomorphize the Orisha netters don't mean that they are not real. Oh, absolutely. So if you look at the Orisha Shango was the fourth Alafin of Oyo. Alafin is like the emperor of the empire of Oyo. So he was definitely real. Now, some people say, well, that's one aspect, and that's true. That's one aspect of him. Just like my Orisha are Obatala and Ogun. Some people, you know, will call me, you know, Baba Ogun. That means I'm not the spirit Ogun, but I am Ogun. So we don't say the spirit lives in me. I am the spirit. I am a representation of Ogun and a representation of Obatala. And that shows in how I live, my work, all of that. If you, so my work is twofold. Well, one was more than two. I write plays, screenplays, novels, nonfiction books. Okay, and that is a trait of Obatala. And then I do security work, teach martial arts. I am a protector of my community. That's Ogun. So people that are the Orisha, either they will be living the life that their Orisha requires, or you know, requires of them, or they will live a shortened life. You know, we often wonder, you know, why do these like gangbangers, why they live so long unless they're killed? But you know, why do certain gang members live long? And because they aren't supposed to be gang banging, but they are supposed to be dealing with war. So they're on that path. They're on that path. But those who don't live long, either they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or they were supposed to be some other Orisha, and they're living an Ogun type life, and they took him out of here. My mother was Obatala Oshun. And you can see, so Ashun is beauty, love. And if you spent an hour with her, you feel the Ashun that was in her. That was her. I've been told by a priest from the continent that when you look at me, you're looking at Ashun. So several Orisha are in you, but there are usually two that's prevalent. Their energy is prevalent with you. Okay. So how does the selection process of the Orisha happen? Isn't it recognized early in some communities by elders or shamans? It can be recognized. We have a process where you are, one foot is on the Oponipa, which is the divining tray, and my daughter took my divining tray out here, and the other foot is on the earth, and divination is done. So when my daughter was born, she's 3 now. When she was born, she had divination, and it told us many things about her, you know. So she is a child of Ogun, just like all of my children. And anybody who knows my children know that they are children of Ogun. But she also has the name Shango Tundun. Shango Tundun is a Shango name. So Shango is one of her Orisha too. You know, I have a Shango name as well. You know, my Shango name is Arakbaye. Thunder is universal. That's my Shango name. I have an Oya name, Oyabode. So several Orisha deal with you, but Ogun, my name is Ogun Joke. Excuse me, Ogun Joke is my wife's name, Ogun name. She's Ogun person too, Ogun Obatala. My Ogun name is Ogun Yemi, and then my Obatala name is Efun Shegun. But my Obatala name is very Ogun-like, because Efun Shegun means Obatala ended the war, stopped the quarrel.
Wow.
And you end war usually with war. So that's my Obatala name. Let me see. I need to visit to see my Ori. So you need to visit what my wife's shop, or because we can certainly make you familiar with your Ori and your Orisha.
Kabam.
Okay.
Let us know if you're coming to Darien so we can,
Yeah. And you can tell by the name. So Ominiki, that name is stop. That name is a name of her Orisha, which I won't tell, but I'll leave that for her to tell you. That's the name of her Orisha. Ogun Bile, I mean, that's obviously Ogun Bile. It's Ogun, and he's Ogun Obatala like I am. Okay.
He was getting it in today.
Yeah.
Not yours.
So, I have at least 10 names. I think it's like 14 names which your names tell your story. Your names are your mission, your power, and your challenge. And I've got 14 of them. And at least 10 but I believe it's 14. Stop, 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 stop,
Beautiful,
stop.
Bobby.
Don't question me.
That's
Now-
a girl, King Hercules.
I'm not a girl.
Yeah, it's a girl.
Beautiful.
If it was a boy, I'd be tearing his behind up probably.
That's
So
cool.
my son actually would do. Stop it. My son, she just tried to bite me. Stop. My son would actually do stuff at other people's house, like climb on the table and stuff when he was this age. I was like, "Boy, get off the table," you know. And it's funny. This one brother says to me, let him do that. That's what boys do. I said, man, I'm not gonna let my son just wild out in somebody else's house. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna let him just wild out and say that's what boys do. Let boys be boys. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. I wouldn't let her wild out at somebody else's house. But my son especially, like no. I was on a bus one time with my son, and now he's 23 now, but he was 2 years old, and he slapped the hell out of me on the bus, and he had nails, so it had me bleeding. And this elder black woman was on the bus. She said, "I'll watch him." She said something like, "I'll watch him while you do what you got to do to him," or something like that. Like, I will make sure that you can tear his ass up, and I'll be watching. Stop. And I was like, "Thank you, but I'll wait on that." Now somebody said ineffective. I don't know what that means.
I think he's talking about his previous comment. How do you tell people their cultural, political, educational work around sexual violence, consent, child predation is trash
Predation,
and ineffective?
How do you tell them it's trash? If you are a child predator.
No, their work around their, I guess, political education work surrounding all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Baby, stop. Stop. The world's going to see you get torn up. The world's going to see you get torn up now. You keep trying to bite me and grab. Stop it. Well, I want your mommy. So she saying she want her mommy, and I'll be glad when her mama gets in. Her mother's at a meeting. I'll be glad when she gets in too.
Somewhere. Oh, Kiki.
I'll be glad when
Kikiola.
your mama gets in too.
Kikiola. Mama will be there soon. Is she sleepy?
No, it's not. Well, actually, she's at the point now where she rarely takes naps during the day.
Wow. We are complete opposite.
Well,
take a nap during the day. It is a good day.
When you're younger, when she stops taking naps, that shit will change when she hits 40. Then she starts taking naps again.
I don't understand though, because I'm not 40 yet. I don't get it. I am eternally
let none of my
25.
kids wild out in the house. I ain't play that. Yeah. So now, I'll be honest. So she wilds out in this house now.
But it's her house.
But you're right. In her house, we got two houses. She can wild out knows, but I take her to somebody else's house. She better not. None of I got 9 children, and none of them were allowed to do that. I remember one time we were at a family reunion, and it's the first time that my father came to Atlanta for Ade's birth, but he had to leave out the day before Ade was born because he had to go back to work. So he hadn't seen him yet. And so he didn't see Ade really until he was 1. And now my mother stayed and was there for Ade's birth. But so he said, "Come here, boy. Let me see you." And Ade was, happy to see him, and he was happy to see Ade. And the next thing I know, he slapped the hell out of my father. Like how he slapped me.
Was into doing that, yeah.
Oh yeah. He's big on slapping folks now. He slapped the heck out of my father. I said, "Oh my God!" I mean, it sounded off so loud, and I know my father, so I know. I mean, I wouldn't have done no shit like that when I was little, but he said, "Okay, you can do that to these other boys in here and stuff, but don't slap your grandfather no more." And I said, "What? You
Grandchildren, man, they change up.
Man, I said, damn, you lucky, boy, because my father, now I never heard him raise his voice, but I know, like when I had my first daughter, I was 19. I was 18 when her mother got pregnant, but I was 19. And my father called me, and he said, "Boy, you over there having sex, and blah blah blah, and in your room, and I didn't know it until once you got pregnant, your mama told me, and he was just and insulting me and stuff like that. Well, not insulting me, but you better get a hotel. You better get a motel or a hotel from now on, or I'm whoop your ass and blah blah. I said, "Well, bring it. Yeah. And my mother came out of her bedroom. She's like, "Are you talking to your father?" I said, "Yeah, I'm talking to him. Yeah, he can bring it if he wants to. Yeah, come on, bring it. I'm ready for you." He's like, "Okay. I'm coming from work." I was strapping on weapons and jive onto my clothes, and my mother on the phone called him at work and was like, "Please don't come from work. Just relax, because he being silly. He being real silly." And
foolishness like 18-year-old.
I'm ready for him. I'm ready. But I was praying that he would be like, "Okay, I'll stay at work." I was praying that he would say that, and he did. I was like, "Whew." I said, "Okay, let me take these weapons off. Let me take the weapons off." I didn't want to have to hurt him. And my mother was like, "Really? you gonna hurt your father? Really? You think you can hurt him?" I said, "Well, all us bleed. I was just gone.
All of us, wow.
Yeah,
you were a writer.
Actually, my daughter wasn't born yet. His mama was just pregnant, very pregnant at the time. And I think I was dealing with the stress of that, and boy, that was the
Smelling
stupidest.
yourself.
Yeah, and that was the stupidest thing I've ever done. Yeah, that was the stupidest thing I've ever done. When that opposite sex issues comes, it's Independence Day. Well, it wasn't that.
It is.
It wasn't that. I thought it was that, but it wasn't that at all.
That's funny. King Hercules, I wanted to thank you for the book recommendation, Yoruba Metaphysics by Dr. Falola. I'm going to check that out. It's a little bit further up, Baba, but I was looking the book up and everything.
Okay, let me see. Yoruba Metaphysics. Let me see. Mama don't play with that with us anywhere. Yeah, let me see. Wow. Right. I didn't let none of my kids wild out. Let me see. How do you tell the people? Let me see. Well, he put the name of the book up, like
it's way further up. I think it's at 146.
I don't have a number like that.
I'm looking at the warrior class. I'm sorry, not warrior class one. I'm talking about the StreamYard, the comments in StreamYard.
Yeah, I am too, but it's not numbered. Let me see. Hopefully, in the house that's white will be held accountable. Also, I'm just saying. Hopefully, the one in the house that's white.
I think that's when I was reading that story about the pedophile.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, y'all.
Yeah, I have to find it. I have to find that.
Yeah. I did have, I think, one or two more stories. Pieces of news that I forgot that I actually put aside for this week.
Okay. Oh, no problem. It's by Dr. Falola, Yoruba Metaphysics. Okay.
I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says Amazon's Ring cancels controversial partnership with tech company Flock amid privacy concerns. Ring, the Amazon-owned video doorbell company, has canceled its partnership with technology firm Flock Safety, the company said Thursday. The termination comes after weeks of backlash over the partnership and Ring's Super Bowl commercial last Sunday, which advertised a feature for finding lost pets that sparked concerns on social media about unwanted surveillance. The smart camera company previously planned to integrate Flock, which makes cameras for reading license plates, into its community request feature that allows law enforcement to request video footage from users for investigations. That's all I'm going to read. This is a read between the lines type moment, which, as I said earlier, those of us who know how to think, which is our audience, most certainly. I mean, you really think they're doing that? I know they put out a news story that says they're doing it, but the same person who owns Amazon, the same person who, is has these Ring cameras, is the same person who is buying up newspapers and all kinds of media and gutting the organizations, stopping people from being able to report news, on things that they don't want reported on. So do you really think that they're going to stop a partnership that allows, how many people do you know have Ring cameras? Everyone, for the most part, because they have this whole keeping up with the Joneses type mentality where if one person gets it, now everyone on the block wants to have it. And, it's just people think of it as this great thing and no one is thinking about it as surveillance. But that was, to me, I mean, I feel like it's obvious that that was the purpose of it to begin with. So, you know, if we think that they're really going to stop that partnership or stop doing like that, then, you know, again, we have to remember who we are and remember who they are. So it's an interesting story. It just made me chuckle because I was like, there's no way that this is true.
Now, I will be in Chicago. So I got a piece of news. I'll be in Chicago May starting May 8th up to May 10th. I'm doing a workshop there as part of Bobby Gore Day. If you don't know who Bobby Gore is, I suggest you look him up. Bobby Gore, Gore. So I'll be there for Bobby Gore Day. And I'm supposed to be in Tulsa in April doing a workshop there. So, yeah. It's another reason to observe what's happening in Gaza. This high surveillance tracking using tech, this all coming to the USA. Right, I tell people all the time, just because they make something new don't mean we have to buy it. That's true.
It's a buy it.
Stop.
Okay.
Excuse me, y'all. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, King Hercules. I think people don't think about what they're doing. You know, just want to be able to, you know, spy or whatever on their children or, you know, their family, and not think about all of the access that you're giving. Like, who else is able to look at this camera footage? You know?
Hell, when you download games onto your phone, do you read the print and not even fine print? Is out there for you to see. It's like, you know, a lot of those games, most of those games, you give them permission to get access to your right
contact list,
contacts, right, and you're allowing that so you can play a game.
Right. Yeah, it's most. I think it's most of the apps, honestly. But yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Because they know that most people don't want to sit there and read through all that. And I think the feeling is, and it probably rightfully so, that they already can do whatever they want to do, you know. So it's like, why am I sitting here? I need to be able to make memes. Why am I sitting here trying to read through all this when I know these people can do whatever they want to anyway, you know?
Well, yeah, you know.
Agree.
Now, one of my students said to me one time, I said, you know, why are you getting the real ID? You got a passport. Real ID is real intrusive on your information, and he was like, well, they can get it anyway. I said, true, but we do not make it easy on our enemies to get our information.
Yeah, bro.
We do not participate in our destruction. We don't do that.
Oh,
and
well.
that's what's happening with that.
Yeah, bro, absolutely.
If you connect to Bluetooth in some rental cars, it does that. I'm sure it does. That's why I don't connect to Bluetooth at all.
I definitely have connected to Bluetooth in rental cars, but I don't use Bluetooth regularly at all. But I agree. I'm sure that it does allow, or you know, that you're giving permissions for certain things to happen.
Right. So really, we gotta keep our eye out on all technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a danger, and, you know, risk in all of it, some type of risk.
And it's like some things you have to use. Some things are necessary, obviously. But walking around with, wireless earbuds, and just so you can, conversations that make it look like you're talking to yourself and listen to music, wirelessly. To me, that's not a necessity in my life. That's not something that I need to be doing all the time. And I have never found Bluetooth as a necessity like that for me. And I think that it's funny that, 20 years ago, I think my mom gave me her Bluetooth or something, or one that she wasn't using. And I think I tried to do something with it for like maybe a day. And then I was like, nah, this is not for me. And I've never gotten into it. Like,
when I was in the military, one part of my job was listening to phone conversations. Now they didn't have Bluetooth in those days, so we would just use the headphones. But they discovered that people that did the job that I did originally, the job that I did. A lot of them are suffering from hearing damage now. And so there was like a class action lawsuit, which I don't believe in class action lawsuits.
It's just certain things you're doing it to yourself, and you could, you decided to turn a blind eye to it, but it was foreseeable. I'm pursuing the government. I'm pursuing them. I'm for that. But a class action suit doesn't make. I mean, shit. You'll get like a penny out of a lawsuit, but the attorney, he gets 30% of that lawsuit. So if he's sued for $10 million, now he's getting $3 million. $3 million. We are getting a dime. Right. $50 piece.
So I'm not for that.
Right. What are you gonna do? You got hearing damage, and now you got $50.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
and $50 would be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most I've gotten was like maybe $100 for something, but most of the time, it's like a negligible amount.
Well, I did a class action suit when I was young against Rio. I don't know if you remember Rio, and Rio's in Atlanta. What was Rio made this? It's supposed to be a natural stuff for your hair, makes your hair wavy and all of that. And I put that job on my hair, and I was like, "What the?" It was like a tire on my head.
Wow!
It took me about 4 hours to wash it out. And I'm like, man, what the hell is this? And then I started seeing other people talk about how Rio had screwed them up and stuff. And then it was a class action lawsuit. And so I became part of that lawsuit, and I got literally 1 penny. 1 penny. Now, and it was a loss like for 10 million or something. That's how many people Rio had screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got a penny. I said, "Oh man, I got my Rio check." I was happy and I got my Rio check. And there was 1 cent on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Exactly. I said that too, Machiavelli. I said, yeah, I said that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Brother Eugene Mason, you said it before, and it's words to live by. We must stop sleepwalking in this reality. You are absolutely right. And it's funny how people have areas. Those of us, even when we're thinking about certain things, we might have another area where we just default to, what most people do. But the fact is, like, we have to wake up. It sounds trite, but we have to, turn it on for everything.
Right. And yes, it was a check for 1 cent. I could put it in the bank, 1 cent, but I didn't have at that age. I didn't have a bank account, so I had to take it to a check cashing place.
That's what I was gonna say. They send you these uncashable checks. That
Right,
is like
a check cashing place would have charged me more money to cash the damn check. They, like 30 cents or something to cash it for 1 cent. So that wasn't going to happen. So that check just stayed in the house, like as an example to me of don't do class action lawsuits.
Yep.
Now I've done lawsuits, but individual lawsuits, not no class action lawsuit, no more. In fact, I sued y'all favorite Office Depot place. Cause I was working for them, and the manager, we had gotten to it because he was talking about, I'm not afraid of you. I wasn't afraid of Kunle when he said Kunle, he said his government name. When he was working here, because I went and started, I took Kunle's place. Kunle was going to quit that job and go somewhere else. And so he said, come here and, you can take my place. And I did. But they were trying to make me security, all kinds of stuff. And security wasn't my job, but they, but the manager told me, I wasn't scared of Kunle is his government name, and I'm not scared of you. And I said, well, Kunle is my student. I said, so I'm a whole different beast from him. I said he would have fucked you up, to be honest. But with me, first of all, I don't even know why you're talking like this, because I haven't threatened you or anything, I said, but me.
That's what let you know he was afraid.
Right. And that's what I said. I said, but you are afraid. I said, but I will whoop you and he had the assistant manager in there too. I said, I whoop you and him in his office. Just lock the door. Just lock the door. And the assistant manager's like, hey, why am I being poured into this, right? But he said, well, just go on, because he was upset. I would come in 30 minutes early, but I wouldn't punch the clock until 2 minutes before I was scheduled to work, right? He said, you keep doing that. And I said, because I'm going to a certain coffee house. I said, and I get coffee there. I drink my coffee. I relax until it's almost time for me to punch in. I said, and I punch in still 2 minutes before I have to. And he was like, no, I don't like that. You don't do that no more. I said, I'll do that as much as I want to. What are you talking about?
Right.
And I said, and you can't even tell me I can't come in here and do that, because it's in my contract that I can come in here. I can come in here on days when I don't have work if I want to. So what are you talking about? So he set it up where, and he had the assistant manager. They set me up. they had on a pallet. You're not supposed to put more than a 6 foot tall. Now I'm taller than 6 feet, but you're not supposed to have taller than 6 feet of paper, a ream on the pallet jack. This ream was about twice my height. He was like, "It's cool. We got it because we got to get it out on the floor." I said, "Man, that's dangerous, you know." And he was like, "Man, I'll help you." The assistant manager. So he's pushing the pallet jack while I'm pulling it, and it has to go over this space. Like it's a space about 3 inches of just space that I got to try to pull the thing over. And he was like, "Man, you just pull it and I'll push it." And I pulled it, he pushed it, and the damn ream of paper came down. Now, each ream weighs 30 pounds. A ream of paper came down, boom, hit me in the head. It really had knocked me out, but I refused to fall because I said, this is a setup. So I just stood there, and the lights came back on. And then, but as soon as the lights came on, boom, one slammed into my jaw, it broke my jaw. Then, boom, one slammed into my shoulder. Now, it was perfect, the one that slammed into my shoulder, because from just doing hard grappling for years, I was already bleeding in my shoulder internally. But when I went to the doctor, I had to go to emergency at first. They x-rayed that, and they saw that I was bleeding in my shoulder. And so it was blamed on Office Depot, to be honest. I got hit by like seven or eight of the boxes. Man, they had put me, so I had to leave work. But before I left work, I got hurt. So the dude, the manager says, just put him on the register. You just work the register. I'm like, man, I was on the register. I was calling lawyers, and the lawyer that I reached, she said, leave that job now. They shouldn't put you to work on anything. Leave that job now. I left. She sent out her assistant to take photos of the place. When the assistant got there, she said they had this. It was a manager named Pat, a woman named Pat. They had her working overtime to clean up. Take that back. Pour that out. They had her working overtime to clean up the area because there was several violations back there in the receiving area. And when she walked in and took the picture, she said that the chick Pat was then getting up the reams of paper and moving the stuff, and but she caught it on camera. And after that, I won my lawsuit against them. So my lawsuit, they had to give me a substantial amount of money, and they had to pay all my medical bills. They had to pay for me to see I saw a physical therapist. They had to pay for my physical therapy. They had to pay for my surgery because I had to end up having surgery in this shoulder. But I had to sign that I would never walk into Office Depot again. They didn't want to see my ass ever again in the Office Depot.
Small price to pay for some people who tried to kill you.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on going back to no damn Office Depot, no way. But yeah, that's what I had to do. But they had to take care of my physical therapy for 6 months after I had the surgery. They had to pay for my medicines, all of that. plus, the money that they had to give me for the injury itself.
Mhm.
And even in that, so I had divination. Divination said, oh, you're going to get so and so. They were offering me one amount of money that was, I mean, some people might like it, but it wasn't worth it to me.
Right.
And so divination said, your ancestors are backing you. Ask for this amount and tell the woman why you're asking for it. The lawyer. I told her assistant was black. She was Jewish. Not her assistant, the lawyer. I told the assistant why I'm doing it. The ancestors. She said, "Oh, you deal with Ifa. You should have said that from the beginning. And we'd have dealt with this whole lawsuit differently." She said because Marcy, her name is Marcy, the lawyer. She said Marcy deals with the Kabbalistic religion or whatever. And she said, and they do divination. So she said, we both believe in that kind of thing. Said, shit, if I had known that, we would have been asked for this amount. Because when I first asked, told Marcy, but I'm not satisfied with that amount of money. She was like, "Are you crazy? Nobody gets paid more than this. You getting paid more than what the asking rate is for surgery on the shoulder."
Mhm.
Both of them. Marcy called me back when she found out. Their whole thing changed once they found that out. And she said, "Well, we're going to push it. We're going to push it through."
It's funny that brings the show full circle too.
Right. It does. Yep.
Yeah, because like you instead of not admitting to what it is that you were really doing, instead of you were bold about it, you let them know, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, this is what I'm doing, and it switched to another thing where they understood that and they respected it and they moved with it, and then you got what you were supposed to get.
Yes. She asked for what I asked for. The ancestors told me what to ask for. I asked for it. She went before whatever board she asked her, and she pushed it, and they said okay. She said, but they don't want you to ever step foot in Office Depot again. I said, that's a small damn price, like you said. That's a small damn price to pay. What I'm about to hit them for.
Mm-hmm.
So the pre-existing shoulder condition got included. Yeah, they didn't know it was pre-existing. The doctors, the physical therapists, they all saw it. It was one point right below my right shoulder blade, which means it was a rotator cuff problem that I was still having problems with. The physical therapist, like he was responding to physical therapy for all of his body except for this one point, and that was true. And I knew that it was an old injury, but they didn't know. The doctor didn't know. Nobody knew. So yes, they included the pre-existing shoulder condition. Now, they had to cut away my shoulder. So it's called subacromial decompression. They had to cut away my shoulder until there was no shoulder left, except for like a little bit right before my collarbone. Actually, they had to cut away my collarbone too. They told me it's going to grow back, and it did, But, whew, boy, for about shit, 4 months. It was excruciating pain. You know, they had to go in. They had to go into the arm with the camera, see what's wrong and all that, and then that same day they make a decision on what kind of surgery is required, and it was subacromial decompression. They gave me the CD of the when they went in with the camera and all that. But then I caught an infection in my shoulder. I had to go in there, so the doctor had to peel out infected material. It was terrible. It was terrible.
That sounds terrible.
But God damn it, they had to pay for it, and they paid me well. So
that's what's up.
Yep.
If I may, I do have one last piece of news that I found interesting from the week.
Yes.
It is, well, the article is called Ranked Countries by the Share of Babies Born Outside of Marriage. And so there's a whole list. I'll read the takeaways and then I can share some of the countries. But in several Latin American countries, more than 70% of children are born outside of marriage. Nordic and Western European countries also report relatively high shares of birth outside of marriage. In contrast, parts of East Asia continue to report very low rates. So across much of the world, long-standing norms around marriage and family formation are changing. In many countries, having children outside of marriage has become increasingly common, while in others it remains rare. This visualization shows countries ranked by the share of children born outside of marriage using the latest available data from the OECD Family Database. And of course, you're not going to see the image, but number one is Colombia with 87% of children born outside of marriage. Number two is Chile with 78.1%. Costa Rica comes in number three with 74%. Mexico is number four with 73.7%. Iceland is 69.4%. Norway, 61.2%. Bulgaria, 59.7%. Portugal is 59.5%. Number 9 is France with 58.5%. And rounding out the top 10 is Sweden with 57.5%. And even at least I can see 14, let's see. Up to 15 is up to the top 15 is 50% or more percent of children born outside of marriage. I just thought it was interesting to see these numbers. The US by comparison is number 24 with 40% of children born outside of marriage. There's a narrative out there that there are certain I would say women especially who are the worst people on earth for having children outside of marriage. Not I guess the men who lay with them and create these children are not accountable, but these certain women are the worst people imaginable for having so many children outside of marriage. When we see that, you know, there's a framing of, you know, this narrative because we live in you know, the United States, which is where these particular women live, by the way, that says that family is this, and you can only do family this way. And if anyone does family in a way other than this, then they are a degenerate. But we can see that, I mean, not only in Latin countries, but also in a lot of European countries, a lot of children are being born outside of marriage. People are doing what people do. You know, they come together and have children. And, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that the children, like I said, are children of people who are just degenerate. You can still raise a very well-formed person outside of the bounds of marriage. Now,
So
as a person,
with mine, 7 of my 9 children were born in marriage. 2 were born outside of marriage, my 2 oldest. But still, there was no degeneracy in me or the woman that I had the children with.
right. And I mean, I would say,
but we certainly did come together. Come,
I know, I recognize, the point as I was saying it. But, you know, as someone who's never been married and I have a 17-year-old at this point. You know, I definitely at many points during the time that I was raising him understood and recognized why it's better to have at least one more person in that child's life who is absolutely dedicated to protecting them, developing them, and all of that. I'm not saying that is not a good thing. That is the best thing. Having one or more people, you know, in that child's life that want the absolute best for them. Definitely, I can't discount that at all. But you know, I just thought it was interesting to see these numbers when you're constantly hearing this other narrative about these certain women, I'll say. And you know, we just look through this very small lens at certain things that we want to paint in a certain way. When,
well,
you know,
and our women, I believe, are the most married women in the United States.
No, you know what? I can't even say it because I haven't looked up the statistics. But according to some very prominent YouTubers, that is not the case.
Wow.
I don't know. Maybe we could actually look it up, or if someone knows the actual numbers in the chat, that would be great. I would love to know that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I don't know. Supposedly, I think, you know, I want to say what I have heard over and over again for at least the past 4 to 5 years is that we are the least married.
Wow.
But I think the most educated or something like that.
Yeah, certainly. Well, our women are the most educated. Right. Our women, the brothers, you know, kind of hurting, but our women are the most educated. Yes.
Which could be a good thing, or, you know, could end
and we have to, so, and that's college educated. Now, education can come in many different kinds of ways. So education means, well, educare is from that Latin root, which means to bring out of. So you can be educated in many different ways, but what we think of generally as education is, you know, college education and things of that nature. And our women are number one in that. I do know that.
Yeah,
but we should look into, well, is also education with like a trade or things of that nature. We should look into that to see how well brothers and sisters are doing.
Yeah, it's such an important thing, and it's great that we've been hearing. I think more of a resurgence around, you know, helping our children in that direction, and even ourselves, in that direction of
Yeah, but remember
trade.
we did the interview with Dr. Ball, and it was on anti-intellectualism. Right. Anti-intellectualism has been rampant in this age of social media.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I could see a person being well-rounded enough. It's all about really pushing and making sure that people have a desire to learn and have a desire to read and know about things outside of what they deal with every day.
And that's what's happening to us. We really don't have a desire to read. And nowadays we think reading is looking at an article on social media.
Right.
That's not reading. I had to tell a brother once. He said, and now his view has changed. But he said, I'm not into what you write. I said, well, that's because you're not so writing is a skill, so is reading. I said, you're not a skilled reader.
Right.
But let me give you a couple of books to look at, not mine, and it will increase your reading skill.
Right.
And so now he doesn't talk like that, but he was trying to dog me out and hadn't read nothing that I wrote.
Isn't that funny?
I know people who read 0 book once every 30
a book.
Read a book once every 30 to 40 years.
Right.
Yeah, I do too.
I was watching this show that was on about 10 years ago. It was a big show 10 years ago, and I watched it faithfully at that time. And recently it was released it was released digitally because it was such a big show that they wouldn't even put it out digitally. So in the past, I would say like month or 6 weeks, I rewatched all of the shows together for the first time, since they were broadcast. And the show takes place in a different time. It takes place more in like the 50s, 60s. I think it gets into the 70s a little bit also. But it shows.
I'll be right back.
Okay. It shows how different the times are now than they were back then. And it's subtle, some of the things that are shown. But one of the things is that people read books. Like they read, you see people reading, before bed, people talking about the books that they read, talking to someone who had also, read the book. And if you think about it, it's not something that happens a lot. I had a conversation like that at work this week. It's funny, with a young man who is very, very outside of his time, because you don't see a lot of young people talking about books. At least I don't. But he showed me a book that he was reading that I had read. And then we had a conversation about another book that I was telling him that I was thinking about rebuying for myself and my son, so that we could read it together, because I read it when I was my son's age. And you just don't hear a lot of people talking about books like that and building that reading habit. But it's a really important thing, because like Baba said, there's such a rise of rampant anti-intellectualism out there. And the fact that a young person or even an older person could get into a skilled trade should not stop them from still being able to go and read and learn about different things that maybe have nothing to do with that trade. Like Machiavelli says, reading gives you empathy. It really does. And it shows you a different side of something. There's so much detail when you're reading a book. I'm have read quite a few books that I would say the first books that I read were also by a very popular author, because my mother read this person's books, and a lot of them have been made into movies. So I have had the experience of quite a few times seeing a movie that comes from a book that I'm very familiar with, and the movies can never come close to including all the detail, even in one small storyline, of all the things that you get inside of a book. And not only the things that you actually read in the book, but then the things that you start to imagine from what you see in a book. So I'm just saying that to say they're so rich. Books are so rich, you know, that's something that we cannot allow to go outside of, you know, our everyday experiences. Like, we should definitely be reading. So I was talking about Baba about how a lot of especially the first books that I read, they were by a certain author that my mother read, because, you know, I read them because they were around the house, and he was a popular author. So I've had the experience of seeing so many books that I've read that were made into movies, and how you can't, it's impossible to include all of the detail that you see in a book, you know, on screen. Like, books are so detailed and so rich in, you know, the information that they impart, that, I mean, they're just really necessary.
Oh yeah. Now, I guess we'll do another episode of Reading for Warriors.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
And we'll deal with fiction and nonfiction. Make some recommendations to you all.
See, Pat Most Revelator says a lot of people do only read for their work or because it's assigned in school. That's true.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's a statistic out there that and I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's like basically people when they get out of school, like, they never read a book again, you know, and that is crazy.
Yes. Yeah. Especially since, you know, or they'll read a book, a nonfiction book only, because there's several people in this community who do that. Actually, fiction is more powerful than nonfiction.
It paints the
Its
picture.
effects on you, because the brain doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. So fiction has a stronger effect on you, and in fact, in African cultures, they would teach lessons with fictional stories, because those will hit home more than the nonfiction.
The allegory.
Right. They're both powerful now, but fiction is more powerful, and we'll do a story on that. I mean, we'll do episode on that. Probably the one following next week. We're doing the one based on February 21st, Pisces. But after that, we'll do.
Oh boy.
We'll do the reading. Was the person mentioned named Bobby War?
I don't know of a Bobby Ward. If you're asking about my story,
I don't either. I'm sure the person that she was talking about, his last name King, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I was pretty sure of that.
Yeah. My mother was heavily into, but she read, you know, she still reads. But yeah, she was really into his book. So the first novel I ever read was something that a child should never read. But that was the first thing that I read and was into, and went through a big part of my life reading those books.
Yeah, my I believe it was my first book too. Was a book by the same author. The first book that I ever read.
It's funny that we never knew that, Bob. About that we never knew that we had that same experience.
Yeah, because my sisters were reading it. So one of my sisters
Right.
is 10 years older than me. The other one is 7 years older than me, and they were huge readers. And my mother had bought them a novel by the author Cujo. Now
Wow.
I read others after that, of course, but Cujo is my first. I don't say it wasn't my first book. Now my first books were comic books because my sister taught me to read when I was 2, but through comic books. But my first 9-chapter book that was not given to me at school was the book Cujo.
How old were you?
I can't remember. I don't know. Let me see. When did Cujo come out?
I know it was the movie. I know came out in the 80s.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen the whole movie actually.
Let me see. Cujo.
It says 1981.
Yeah, I thought that's what I thought it was.
The film was released in 1983, so
Yeah,
that gives
Cujo
you a
was
time.
1981. So I was 13 years old. My first book. Now that wasn't my first book. That was my first book away from school that I read on my own. My first novel. I didn't read. I don't even think they had those back in those like chapter books and stuff like that.
for young people.
Right. I don't think they had them.
Any
I
of
don't
them.
think they had them back in those days. But yeah, Cujo was the one.
I was 10 years old and I read Misery when I was 10. And that book is so graphic, so like,
Oh, yeah. I've read Misery.
yeah. Well, okay, so but I mean, for a 10-year-old, and I was all into it, but probably some of that stuff went over my head, but not all of it did because I do remember.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still remember scenes from the book Cujo, and was crazy. Cujo is a bastardization of the name Quajo, which is a tree name that several of us, have had. Quajo. Well, because I know many of you have heard of Cujo Goody,
Yeah,
and
bro.
that's the name. His name Quajo. Yeah,
Oh, get out! I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was
Well,
around 55 when I looked at my deceased father's small book collection and saw George Jackson's Soledad Brothers. Okay. I wonder why he never ever spoke about that book. I don't know.
yeah, I had a similar experience recently. I went to it was last uh October, right at the beginning of October. I went to my great aunt's funeral in Memphis. It was my grandmother's sister, and we stayed in her house. And I saw her book collection, and she had a book by Elijah Muhammad, and she had one or two other books that I was like, that's interesting. You know that this is because she was a teacher and an avid reader, so I'm sure that she read them. You know that they weren't just books that she had. And I almost asked my cousin if I could have them, but I didn't. You know, I didn't want to be doing that. You know what I'm saying? Right around funeral time, it's just I don't know. It's not comfortable to be asking for things. But yeah, I had a similar experience with my aunt. I think people who, especially people who are readers, they'll delve into different areas, and it makes you more intellectually curious.
Now,
Which
what's funny, I had all of Honorable Elijah Muhammad's books, and my mother read all of them. Yeah, my mother was an avid reader until she. Now I've had a stroke too, but until she suffered from a stroke, and now and so you all know, women are affected stronger by strokes than men.
yeah, well,
Men have more strokes, but women have more serious strokes than men. In fact, when I had the stroke, I was in the hospital in 2012, August 29, 2012. I was in the hospital, and my mother came in to see me. Now she's in a wheelchair. So her and my sister Lisa came in, and I said, "Oh, I got to use the bathroom." And my mother said, "Lisa, get him the bedpan, to use." I said, "It's okay." And I jumped up out of the bed, and I went to the bathroom. And my mother was looking like, "What in the world?" And I said, all I can chalk that up to is my training.
right.
That I didn't lose no mental deficits or anything like that. Now I did suffer some physical deficits at first, which have healed, but I could always walk and stuff like that. I just at first, for about the first year, I'd have to be careful if there was something in the floor and I didn't see it. I certainly could feel it. I feel like I'm about to fall and stuff like that. But my mother was like, "Wow, you got up and ran to the bathroom." I said, "Yeah, I'm not affected like that." And then I started researching, and I found out that women are more affected by strokes stronger than men are.
Yeah, I've always heard
But
that too.
so my mother started. She still read all the way up until the cancer that she had. She couldn't sit up and read no more. But she still read, but she would read more simple stuff, or, like the fluff, those newspapers that that the crappy newspaper like Inquirer and stuff like that. And I said, "Ma, this is crap. I'll give you some books to read." And I did, but I don't think she ever read them. I think that was just too much for her brain at that time. But because I grew up when she was reading, advanced stuff. So I used to read Donald Goins when you was a kid. Not when I was a kid. Not when I was a child. Unless you,
Is right next to each other.
I grew up reading Donald Goins, in my teen years. So In fact, I did a. Well, I wrote. I wrote that. I wrote a article on black on street lit, and I dealt with the history of street lit with Donald Goins. Uh, what's the pimp? Goddamn.
Iceberg Slim.
Iceberg Slim. Um, I dealt with them all the way up to modern day. I wrote that about 10 years ago. Because me and my student, Fabu Yi, we were writing a story together, a novel together. Well, it was a series, really, that was called Diesel. And so I had to go back into reading those authors. And yeah. But you probably read it when Ominigi was a child.
No, I think they meant when I was a kid. Is it, you and I are next to each
Oh, when I was okay.
Fat Fingers.
Okay, because
I saw Victim 2 so often. But they might have.
Donna Goins wrote some great stuff now.
Yeah, bro.
Especially his stuff with Coppin Ed and Gravedigger Jones. Like, God, what's the movie? Cotton Comes to Harlem, and which was made into a movie. But all right, we are going to see you all later. We're over the 2-hour mark, so we're about to get going. Yeah. So be safe in your homes. Be safe out in the street, the restaurants, the hospitals, wherever you may go. Stay black or whatever it is that you may be.
And remember who you are and remember who they are. And don't let your emotions get caught up in what you're seeing.
Right. All right. Peace.
Peace. Love y'all.
Love y'all. Big time.
Mm-hmm.